Welcome everyone to Imperial College's Centre for Languages, Culture, Communication Research Seminar Series, which I, Michael Weatherburn, host with my colleague Dr. Michael Paraskos. We have host many speakers in the fields of humanities, languages, and the intersection with science, interdisciplinarity, to advertise the very best that our department here at Imperial does. It's my pleasure today to introduce Dr. Tatiana Codreanu, who teaches here at Imperial and is involved in many other projects. She has a PhD in applied linguistics and works in the fields of AI ethics, adaptive intelligence, evolutionary dynamics, digital transformation, and wants to find out and ascertain the best we can possibly do in AI human collaboration. She also has worked in France and Europe more generally on a variety of projects, and I'm sure she'll introduce us to those. But otherwise, without further ado, Tatiana, over to you. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you so much, Michael. So I am a researcher and an academic, and I am interested in digital tools and communication and how we evolve with AI accelerators. I am part of the IMPEC research group in France, focusing on human-computer interaction and digital communication and AI collaboration. Today, I am presenting a paper, work in progress. It's peer-reviewed at the moment, but also it's part of a larger project, a book that we published last year with colleagues from Imperial IX AI in Science called the AI, the Good, the Bad, and the Game Changer. And this presentation today takes the essay that I published in that book with my colleagues further in terms of research. It's a research that I have been conducting the last 1 year and a half. I will start with a confession because AI is already there and we have seen AI, all of us. We've watched it, not a sci-fi plot device, but mainly like a coworker or invisible coworker in movies. And I would like also to go beyond that assumption that AI will translate in job losses for us, or this is just a magical tool. The shift for me, it's about infrastructure. And I was trying to highlight in my paper that infrastructure decides who gets paid and who gets seen and who gets replaced. And my research question is when cinema becomes a medium that learns, who controls what it learns and who benefits when it produces. I would like to go to slide 2. And if we have a couple of movies already who used AI, we can see that it's an award level work already in AI assistant restoration and grading, synthetic voice enhancements, AI assisted sound and VFX workflows. Some of them have not been publicly disclosed, some of them have, but the audiences experience the output. And sometimes the industry keeps the process quiet, and that silence matters because it sets the norm. So let's go to the next slide now, because I would like to give you a mental model. Every time AI makes production faster, it also creates a new kind of debt, a complexity debt. So the efficiency is easy to celebrate. It's easy to be impressed by those tools because we have faster iteration, lower costs, more options, but the debt hides in 3 places: copyright, labor rights, and governance. Studios and platforms are great at capturing efficiency gains, and the complexity costs often land on someone else, the freelancer, the performer, the small studio, the creator whose work was scraped, the audience who loses trust. So the real question is not, isn't that amazing, that AI tool is very useful? It's who pays for the hidden bill. If we go to the next slide, if you want to understand why adoption is moving so fast, let's look at the pre-production. This is where imagination becomes something a studio can say yes to. We have instant storyboarding. That means a director can walk into a pitch meeting with visuals that feel finished. Concept art becomes rapid word building, and real-time previs makes camera experiments cheap. It changes who gets to look professional in a meeting. And that changes also who gets funded. This is the what is the promise to be something that is very democratic for all of us. So the tools lower the barrier to cinematic language, but we cannot stop the story here, because the next chapters are about control. If we go to the next slide, you'll see a slide that captures the best version of this future. Small teams and big worlds. A short film like Freelancers, and I'm going to show you a clip from that short movie in a couple of moments, became a signal last year at the Festival de Cannes, Festival du Marché du Film. It's a signal that cinematic storytelling is no longer reserved for people with a studio-sized budget. So yes, AI can expand our creative ambition. It can reduce cost of visual imagination, but there is a caution that we should apply here, because when creation becomes easy, distribution becomes the bottleneck. And distribution is where the power tends to concentrate. And we talk a little bit here in terms of power nodes. Power nodes is a concept in economics that Mia de Kuyper worked a lot on. And in terms of platform distributions in her book, Profit Power Economics. And if we move to the next slide, we're going to see that now we hit the legal fork in the road. Europe is circling one deceptively simple question. When AI trains on content, is it reading or is it copying? If it's reading, we have the current text and data mining exceptions that can cover a lot. But if it's copying, then we go into infringement risk and licensing markets. So Europe is pushing for transparency, UK too. Training data disclosures debates are present in the industry, and the French proposal last year shifts the burden of proof with the presumption of exploitation. In France, this is a political economy argument, because we have the Marché du Film, which is, I think, probably the biggest business event in the movie industry. It determines who has leverage, the rights holder or the model builder. One of the core ideas of my papers will be in the next slide. If it's about the transparency asymmetry. So we live in an asymmetry. The outputs are highly visible, but the training data is hidden. So us as creators can see the result, but we cannot see the data set. We cannot verify provenance. We cannot trace content. We cannot audit what has been taken. And that asymmetry creates a predictable pattern. As outputs become more visible and more commercial, then we have those litigation risks that spike. Risk scales with visibility squared multiplied by opacity. The more famous the output becomes, the more expensive secrecy gets. If we go to the next slide, we're going to see that here is what transparency asymmetry is in the wild. When an AI tool generates something that is that you can recognize very quickly, and likeness at scale, studios react fast. Cease and desist letters, escalation, claims of systemic infringement. And if we notice a deeper point here, it is a power fight about who gets to build the tools and on what data and with what accountability. If training remains opaque, the conflict shifts to visibility. We have viral outputs that become the evidence trail. So legal systems also can become a distribution system, because they can determine what is allowed to circulate. In the next slide, I will try to stop being abstract and I will talk a little bit how AI is splitting a performer into components. A face model, a voice model, and motion model. We're going to have examples of this in today's research seminar. It's about face data, voice data, and movement data. So each can be trained into a model, licensed separately, and reused across projects. So this is the ethical and contractual shift that I'm trying to highlight, because historically performance was embodied and unified. Now identity can be unbundled, stored, and licensed. So we are moving from acting to data generation. And once identity becomes data, contracts become destiny. Because digital double can work forever in a loop, in multiple projects, in markets the performer never agreed to, in context they should never endorse. So the performer becomes contractually a licensable bundle. And this is why content in terms of term limits start to matter in the industry. If we go to the next slide, the question is, if identity can be licensed, how risky is the license? In my paper, I formalize it as the likeness lock-in risk. So a practical way to evaluate whether a contract protects the performer or traps them. So we have 5 levers here: term length, revocability, scope, and transferability, and also the remuneration model. So we can almost feel a little bit the story each lever tells. If this one project, is this one project or all media now known or hereafter devised? Can I revoke if my career changes? Can you sell my likeness to someone else? Do I get ongoing value, or is it a one-time buyout and goodbye, which often happens also with me when my agent sends me something for a self-tape and then I have a contract, and most often it's a one-time buyout. But the point is not the mathematics behind that model, it's clarity. Because a performer should be able to look at the deal and understand the lock-in that deal implies. In the next slide, I will take you to what happened with Olivier de Havilland. So if we time travel a little bit for a second, in 1944, Olivier de Havilland challenged the studio system's ability to lock in actors. And the state of California decided that a maximum term that an actor could be locked in a contract is 7 years. So Olivier de Havilland helped here the industry because the decision reshaped how Hollywood worked and Hollywood labor power. I think it is my feeling that today we need the same spirit. We need that same spirit applied to digital likeness, because digital contracts can create something worse than a 7-year lock-in. They can create a permanent one. So for me, the goal is concentrated around 3 concepts: consent, compensation, and control. But we also have a hopeful part if we go to the next slide. Because labor is adapting, the SAG-AFTRA is pushing a framework where digital replicas are treated as a real production cost. Content per use, payment, approval for use, patient and health contributions baked into the economics. In the UK, equity is pressing for explicit consent and fair remuneration, and protection of voice, motion, and facial data. And outside unions, we are seeing consent-based market places for licensed voices and personas. And I think it proves a principle by the end of the day, because we can build now legal AI pipelines. We can also build consent-based creative AI. So it shouldn't be like a binary fight, AI against actors or artists and artists against AI. It's whether artists have agency inside AI. I'd like on the next slide to zoom out a little bit to the biggest power shift, because when production gets easier, everyone can create. So the scarce resource becomes attention. And who controls attention? Platforms. So we get that inverted gatekeeping. Old gamekeepers mattered at the studio door. They still matter when I'm in the room with a casting director or when I'm sending a self-tape to my for a project. But the new gatekeepers live inside the feed, the recommendation system, the ranking algorithm. So in the AI era and AI accelerators, the algorithm becomes the new studio head. It decides what gets seen and what stays hidden, and it shapes our sense of reality because it shapes our menu of stories. We're going to look a little bit at the case, a brilliant case on the next slide. If you are not familiar with Samuel, this is I think, brilliant use of strategy because the creator of Samuel designed something for discovery. Short episodes for broadcast and streaming. And I should ask, the creator did not use AI. It's purely human-driven authenticity, which remained the key to breaking through the digital discovery bottleneck. So the creator designed vertical micro episodes for TikTok, distribution built into the format. Then we had the social momentum came first, and then broadcast, and then acquisition. Now it's on Netflix. So that is what modern gatekeeping looks like. A creator can break through. But the final power still sits with platforms and buyers who decide what scales globally. I would like on the next slide to talk a little bit about trust. And the industry reality is AI is used, but not very often disclosed. The audience reality is people prefer disclosure. And they are more comfortable to watch a movie if we have been honest with them about AI use, if the AI use is transparent. It's what research shows. So secrecy is not protecting trust, it's eroding it. I think trust is an economic asset in entertainment. If audiences start to assume manipulation, the emotional contract weakens. So disclosure is a way to keep the relationship with the audience intact. On the next slide, I would like to talk a little bit how I grew up. I grew up with that assumption that seeing is believing. And it's what we have seen also in journalism with brilliant journalists like Lise Doucet, showing evidence and broadcasting evidence. But that assumption is breaking in this period of AI accelerators, because in the photography world, if we look at this report, creators reported the stabilization of evidentiary trust. When images can be generated photorealistically, proof becomes negotiable. So documentation is important in cinema too. Behind the scenes footage, journalism, archival memory, cultural record. So we need a way to measure the trust gap between captured reality and generated imagery. In my paper, I formalize this as the authenticity and trust index, a way to operationalize provenance, consent, attribution, disclosure, and audience comfort. Because I think if we cannot measure trust, then we cannot govern it. The next slide, it talks a little bit how we can shift from diagnosis to design, because this provenance infrastructure already exists. C2PA and content credentials aim to attach a kind of digital passport to media. Where did it come from? What edits have been made? Major organizations are integrating pieces of this, media companies like BBC, tech companies, camera makers, and the big idea is cultural So it's more a cultural change rather than a technical one. We need to make authenticity easy to verify, because we're living in a world of continuous content. So verification becomes our new digital literacy skills, AI literacy skills, in short, our new literacy, how we verify content. If we go to the next slide, at this point, I would like to ground the discussion in lived experience. So we're going to watch an end-to-end, not the entire movie, but a part of that movie created with VO. Then we're going to experience voice cloning with 11 Labs. And we're going to look into the new editing tools that can remove objects, swap backgrounds, and change meaning. So if we could now, Paul, if we could maybe, I will send you the link, freelancers, on the chat. And if we could just project this for a moment, for a couple of seconds, so our audience can see the movie that has been created with VO last year.
Just bear with me a sec.
Of course.
Okay, here we go.
Perfect.
Two adopted brothers face to face for the first time in forever. The tension thick enough to slice with a sharpened katana. But let's take a trip back in time before these two reunited. Both lived very different lives. But somehow, they were drawn back together. Meet Liam Callaghan. The Mohawk, not a face, jacket, been through 5 fires and a small war. He's the kind of bloke who orders shots before the fight starts. Ex-elite sniper, ex-everything really. Muay Thai brawler, former lead singer of a punk rock band called Meat Confetti. He's wrestled reptiles, cracked ribs in 4 countries.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. We can stop it here. Yeah. Thank you so much. So we can see, of course, since last year, those tools progressed a lot, but the creator of this video has been invited at the Cannes Festival to talk about his experience with generative video production. We're going to have a look now at 11 Labs. Okay. And I'm going to send this in the chat, 11 Labs. And maybe, Paul, we can just open 11 Labs to show the audience voice cloning. Yes.
Okay.
Maybe perfect. Yeah. Maybe we can just, press on the
Sure.
original voice and the cloned voice, just to have an idea.
Holmes's quick eye took in my occupation, and he shook his head with a smile as he noticed my questioning glances. Beyond the obvious facts that he has at some time done manual labor, that he takes snuff, that he is a Freemason.
Thank you. So if you log in into this platform, you have access to a lot of tools, including like voiceover for trailers and movie trailers, so in different languages. And then 2 new tools. So the first one, this, video editors, they are very performant, but this one, it looks to be the new kid on the block. I'm going to, maybe we can have a look at Helios. And I would like maybe, Paul, maybe to share from the current time. Let me share from the current time if it's working. Yeah, if we could share it from the moment where the bread is sliced and it becomes a tree. Oh no, I'm so sorry. I didn't send the right one, Paul. The last one, the very last one, the very last link on the chat. I'm so sorry. It's my mistake.
I know many of you think I'm AI. I'm not AI, but this is AI. Maybe in the future I'll get to work less.
This is where the creative possibilities start stacking up. A bread loaf being cut with a knife, they replace the bread with a lush forest, and somehow this works. The knife is cutting into a miniature forest. Wild generation. A dog in an orange sweater gets swapped to a blue winter jacket, and the replacement is clean. No artifacts around the edges. Two kids and a fabric sofa prompt to replace it with a leather sofa with visible stitching, and in the output, you can actually see the stitching texture on the leather. That level of detail preservation is what separates this from older in-painting approaches. Then there's local adding objects that weren't in the original video.
Yeah, you're going to see that, they are adding a backpack to the actor. Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. And then the news in AI, we're still on the same slide. The news in AI, and you can explore it on your own time. It's Helios, an AI video model that can generate minute-long coherent videos in real time, keeping characters, motion, and scenes consistent. So you can discover it, because we're going to send this by email, and I'm going to put the PowerPoint in the chat also. So we can see a little bit that it is great, but I would, ask those questions when I see those tools. Yes, they are very useful, but if a tool can create emotion on demand, whose emotion is it? And if a tool can replicate a voice, whose consent is it? And if a tool can generate a scene, whose labor and style are inside of it? Because that frontier is thrilling. I'm very interested in those AI accelerators, but I feel also that we need governance that moves at the speed of adoption. So this slide is about who will control what it learns, because we have those three governance choices: disclosure and provenance tracking, consent-based participation for performance and creators, and algorithmic transparency for distribution platforms. So the concrete proposal is the de Havilland threshold, a maximum enforceable term for likeness, digital likeness contracts. I feel identity is not a one-time commodity. Careers evolve, context change, values shift, and the performer needs a renegotiation horizon. So control and compensation stay alive. This is also how we prevent abuse, and this is how we make AI adoption compatible with human dignity. So this is a little bit, on the next slide, a moment a little bit to zoom out, because the rules are already being written in three arenas: law, courts, and industry practice. And the stakes are three ownership questions. who owns digital likeness, who owns training data, and who controls algorithmic distribution. These are governance choices, and governance choices decides whether AI decentralizes cinema or consolidates it. So when I hear innovation, I'm thinking distribution of value. When I hear efficiency, I'm thinking complexity depth. And when I hear the future of storytelling, I'm thinking the future of bargaining power. Thank you so much. And we are ready now for our Q&A. This is the book that we have been working on last year with colleagues. You have a direct link to the book here. We are ready for the Q&A. I'm not really sure how to, if you have any questions for me that I could answer.
Hi,
Yes. Hi. Yes, Michael.
Michael. I was teaching a class related to this earlier this week, and your talk was much better than mine.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. It relates actually to a similar thing. I was formerly involved a lot in music, and what really it conveyed to me, yeah, we can talk about the copyright of this and that, but like ultimately it transpired the students just didn't really care about music. It was there to, it's a nice background thing. You walk around, you listen to it if you're bored, but it just the volume of availability and the easiness, just the status of it had just it seems to, in my mind, have evaporated in the last 30 years. Is there notions of kind of prestige, status involved in this, or is it just the legal stuff and that everything else will stay the same? Thank you.
Yes, I think it's a very interesting question. It's also, I think it's a very good question about the prestige and reputation. Music, it's for me, it's values, not only because I will say maybe something that it's maybe relevant to many of us. Music sometimes it changes your molecules when you listen to music, but also music is activism. Music is progress. Well, if you think about, how an artist like Bad Bunny, evolved throughout his career. It's amazing how he kept that identity, Puerto Rican identity, with the Puerto Rican accent, and how he, like during the Super Bowl, he gave back the Puerto Rican identity to an artist like Ricky Martin, who was singing in English before. So it's so many dimensions to music that I think we need to go back to the basics with our students and make them realize of those dimensions that we have in music. Music also is geopolitics. If we think how countries used music and the different, things to represent ideas. We have Marian. Do we have any thoughts on how AI risks centralizing our ideas and language? Is this yes? Yes, it is a concern, because if we go back to the father of media theory, Marshall McLuhan, and that mysterious sentence that he produced once, that the medium is the message. It's a little bit of an alert for us, how the medium will change behavior, how the medium will change language. And language, it's something, language progresses with technology. If you take, for example, the French language, We have, if I give a concrete example here, we have three groups of verbs, which will be like the regular verbs and in ER, which is the biggest, more than 8,000 verbs, and then the second group of verbs regular also, and the third one, which is an heritage of the French language, mainly before technology. And when we adopt words in the French language, they are coming mainly from English and Arabic because we're hugely in contact with those two languages. And as a word, we notice that the word will become masculine, and as an action, that verb will become a regular verb in ER. So it shows that the more we progress with technology, there are some regularities and some influences here in the language. And we do not know how AI risks centralizing our ideas and language, but I think we need to apply that critical thinking and already ask those kinds of questions. They are essential because we're living in the era of AI accelerators, which is different from the software era in which I grew up. Any other questions or maybe a follow-up question?
Gita has asked about, should AI generated content be labeled as such?
Yes. Yes, it was the presentation was about AI generated content should be labeled as such. And we have already on the PowerPoint that I have, that Sheila is going to send afterwards, I added the PowerPoint also to the chat. We have already tools to assess this. Now we also hope that vendors will embed tools that will allow us to assess video generated content. It's very important, yeah.
Kanta has a question.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, thank you for this excellent presentation. I completely agree with the proposal that for labeling and creating these governance structures that you propose. I do just have a question about the difference in perceptions between this kind of labeling and the kind of use of AI in different forms of film and media, because you've shown as your main case study fiction film and Hollywood in particular, where I would argue the claim of seeing is believing is not at all relevant from the very beginning of Hollywood, from the very beginning of filmmaking. People are expecting and wanting to be tricked by the latest technologies, which I guess is very different from contexts where you don't expect artificially created.
Yeah, you're so right, Kanta, because it's what is cinema about, not seeing and believing. I was referring in my research to photography work, seeing and believing. So maybe I was not clear enough. There is, I have added this also on the PowerPoint. There is a study about photography and the provenance of that photographic work, and how it's a study that has been published, I think in January this year. It's called Brave New World and Justice for Creators in the Age of AI, and it's mainly linked to photography work, my example. Yeah, because before we would see, that's why I also mentioned Lise Doucet, because we would see something is happening, there is a war in a country, we will see the journalist broadcasting, going there physically. Then we had that innovation with social media. Before the journalists like Lise Doucet going there physically, you'd have people, taking videos. So the information will be with the user rather than with the journalist, and the journalist will verify the information. And my example was linked to that kind of seeing and believing that I grew up with. with the photography and journalistic. Cinema totally. You're right, because we want to be tricked. That's why we use storytelling techniques. And I don't know if this answered your question, Kanta.
Yes, it does. Thank you. It also opens up the question of, because, with the introduction of Photoshop and any kind of image editing, that became a complete ban, internally enforced within journalism. And I could see something similar happen for AI in non-fiction settings.
Yeah. Any other questions for us?
There's one in the chat, Tatiana.
Oh, yes. When it comes to transparency, what do you think are the most important things an AI company should disclose? Or training data? That's the first one. And I think a concern they often throw out is we don't want to reveal. Yes, also. And I don't think it stands, because if your training data, it's opaque. What we see now is the cost of that opaque black box in courts. Yeah, with the different things happening at the moment, like we have discussed during the presentation with the EU AI Act, with the New York Synthetic Performer Disclosure, with different court cases, like when we saw that studios are really concerned about what's going on in terms of AI training and how those images and videos are generated. So I think governance choices will determine the future, because we need to ask those questions. Who owns the training data, and what is the training data? And this has to be more and more, I think, transparent. And I think it changes because at the micro level, users are asking the right questions also. Thank you. Yes, Michael.
Thank you. Yeah, so perhaps this is the last question, because we have to wrap up in a minute. But I was just remembering when I saw a sign on a bus stop that said, "Come for the original 3D experience, the theatre." And I'm already seeing a move, as one of my cleverer than me friends called it, the rise of the authenticity industry. The better and better we get at faking stuff, the more people will have to get better at showing it's real. And I'm just like what I said with the music thing. I mean, recorded music versus live. Do you think there'll be a shift, or are there trends towards this already, that people wanting to see less video because there's so much video, and so you can make it so easy? Are there difficult things that people are doing to compensate, to show authenticity? Thank you.
Yeah. So I think in terms of music, probably you're the better expert. But I have colleagues performing live, and I really enjoy. And in London, we really enjoy to see live performances. And in terms of acting, my career focuses on stage acting rather than film. But I enjoy film also. And we see the success of different stage productions here in London. So I think authenticity is clearly stated when we have live performers and theater. In terms of AI in film and media, and probably music also, AI should be the the collaborator, not taking over the creator. Samuel is a big example here on how a creator not using AI used at her advantage the distribution system. And it's authentic, Samuel. It's really authentic creation also. And as you said, we are in that period of time where we are seeing so many videos and things produced with AI that I think all of us crave a little bit the real interaction with people.
Thank you, Tatiana. Has anyone got any final questions? If not, all right. Well, thank you so much, Tatiana. Fascinating.
Thank you so much.
Gave us a lot of food for thought. And thank you for all the links. We'll link to them on the recording. Thank you all for joining us at Imperial Centre for Languages, Culture, Communication. See you at our next event. Bye for now.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye. Bye.